Adversaries are relentless, and they're only getting smarter, faster, and more sophisticated. Knowing their game is the only way to beat them. That's why we're here. Learn what it takes to protect against even the most sophisticated attacks. Welcome to the Adversary Universe podcast.
I like to keep some sense of what my metrics are, particularly like working out, but here in Vegas, it has taken a whole other tone because I woke up this morning after having been out late last night and I had just flown in yesterday. Yeah. Well, I was at business dinner, but and I had one drink there, but you have to enter into this thing, the app, all the what you ate, supplements, whatever. And so this morning it was your day's ruined. Drink a lot of water and try again tomorrow, basically. Yeah, it was
it just shames you.
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you need that though sometimes.
Yeah.
We had a guy that worked for us years ago. They had a RFID embedded into his hand. And
dude, I just experienced it here in Vegas. Somebody came up to me. They're like, "Oh, I have this thing," and actually, he works for us. Actually, it might be the same guy we're talking about.
He doesn't work for us currently.
This guy works for us currently.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "Hey, bring your phone near my hand." I was like, "This kind of
That's
weird."
That's a weird way to start a conversation.
Exactly, really. Can I shake your hand first? What's your name? And it went to this LinkedIn and all his info, and I'm like. And I don't know what the purpose is of that, but if it's kind of cool. But
they're reprogrammable. So the guy that used to work for us, he had it, and he tried to convince everybody in the office, successfully actually, that everybody had to get it to get access control to the door because Sean Henry was mandating that everybody had these chips embedded in them, and a couple of people in the office were like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, really. That's almost biblical.
Yeah. But apparently you go to a tattoo place to get it done.
Really?
He bought it on the internet and then had somebody at a tattoo place, I guess, inject it into his,
really?
skin.
Just this part of his hand?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You have to really be committed to RFID to have one
really
inserted
committed
into your body.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like that's just a really... you got to be all in for that.
There's a tattoo place downstairs. We could probably...
I'm ready to go. By the way, we're 2 years into the podcast.
Oh,
happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary!
Oh,
is it official?
It's official.
Where's the champagne?
We don't have any champagne or flowers here. And for our viewers, we are coming to you not live because this is going to be recorded and then released, but we're at Black Hat.
Black Hat.
And we are kind of at the end of a pretty packed week of great conversations, really great briefings. We released the threat report, and
personalized intel.
Personalized intel, that's right. I think that's fascinating. I've had a lot of questions, a lot of conversations about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, everyone's asking hey, this is actually really great. We want the personalized intel, and then we need assistance operationalizing that. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the next stage.
Did you notice any interesting, was there any AI stuff? I don't know if you saw it.
So there were at least 1,000 AI conversations and, announcements from a multitude of vendors, everyone having their own approach. But a lot of the questions that I've been running into are around how are adversaries really using AI? I think that's a big thing. I did some press this week also, where there was a few interviewers or reporters asking, how real is the threat with groups like CHOLLIMA, famous CHOLLIMA, using AI? And then how are adversaries exploiting AI truly, right? I think those are big questions that we want to get into.
I think it's more real than a lot of the AI stuff that I've been seeing. I walk around the trade show.
We need some sound effects.
I was walking around the trade show floor, and it's there's companies that they just were just slap AI on the booth, and it's just blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now with AI, it's
that's painful.
And I feel like everything, everybody's got this hammer that's AI, and they're just looking for nails.
Yeah.
Everything's a nail, and. It's been a little exhausting.
Yeah, it has been.
But the adversaries are actually using AI, so I think that's a good thing for us to maybe dive into a little because we've talked about this, but it continues to evolve, and we're seeing more and more of it every day.
Yeah. I mean, famous CHOLLIMA, who's right here, by the way, famous CHOLLIMA. So for the folks that are listening, I'm basically holding a famous CHOLLIMA action figure in my hands right now.
Can't really move it though.
Are they not? There's no point of articulation. Yeah. So we're tracking. A bunch of adversaries in the threat hunting report. AI has become a very big topic. Adversaries are using it. Let's talk about famous CHOLLIMA. We spoke about it a little bit in the previous episode on the threat hunting report. Famous CHOLLIMA is using it for
everything.
Everything, right? They're using it primarily for, we saw resume creation, we saw deepfakes during the interview process. We've seen it helping them get through the interview process, answering questions.
My favorite recent one was like they were interviewing one of these guys, and on video, and he was sharing a screen to like do like a coding test or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's talking and typing while his hands are up in the air, while he's like gesticulating and having a conversation. And it was like
no, and you saw like,
actual
entry
it's like you're
inputs.
still on the computer, bud. Like you're using your feet. What's going on here? Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit again about how AI is being used, because I want to bring up something that came up on a few conversations today.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Social engineering attacks, right? AI is being used by a multitude of adversaries. We're seeing it for deepfake. We're seeing it for the way that adversaries have bridged the gap on like phishing campaigns. So like the wording and the messages are very accurate right now. We've seen AI being used to target individuals, right? A little more on a personal basis, right? I have personally experienced this. Yesterday I was explaining this to someone. I was part of a text message thread randomly. This is interesting, where this text message thread is coming in. It's a smishing attack, by the way. But it comes in the form of there are 3 people on the text message thread, and they're all from the same area code. And the first message is like, hey, sorry you couldn't make the funeral service. Mom was disappointed. And then, you could see obituary details here. And then the second number popped up saying, oh, yeah, I couldn't make it either, but I heard it was beautiful. And then the third one is something to the effect like, oh, yeah, I just looked at the video, or something to that effect. Or I clicked on the link, which I thought was interesting because they're all the same area code. These are people that I don't know. I'm the only one in the text thread. And I was like, how interesting. If I run this URL, right, through a sandbox or a tool, like one of our internal tools, I'm like, oh, this is all bad, right? So clearly I'm being targeted. But I'm not the only person experiencing this. And so it's interesting where historically we've seen smishing attacks where...
What was the URL?
Oh, I'll have to send it to you.
Like,
yeah,
what was
yeah.
it doing that was bad?
Oh, it basically was redirecting me to some type of malware, right? For targeted. I think it was some type of screen capturing piece of malware that was embedded into it.
Because that sounds like good for phishing, and also a lot of like pig butchering type stuff.
Yes,
starts off that
exactly
way,
correct.
too.
Exactly correct. And so, which is interesting because historically, when we talked about pig butchering in previous episodes, a lot of it being one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
Now it looks they're making it seem like you're just part of a group of a conversation where you
That's
question like
interesting, yeah.
right. So like you're one of like 3 or 4 people on a text thread all of a sudden, and these other correspondents are saying, oh yeah, I clicked on that. Yeah, like, that was beautiful, or I clicked on that, and it's not the first time I've gotten it, but I'm hearing it from other people saying that, yeah, I've been getting these group messages, these group smishing attacks that are more than just a one-on-one, like, hey, click here. They're making it like you were just added to a conversation, right, that was happening. And so very interesting in where this goes. But I'm also wondering, is AI being used in that type of scenario where
Probably
the AI
not.
model is probably communicating with you coming from those different numbers? Would
Probably
you see
not.
that?
No,
Not right now?
I don't think so.
Really?
I mean, we see AI being used for social engineering in terms of like dialing in the messaging.
Yes.
In terms of creating personas to convince you that they're legitimate, and in terms of setting up perhaps like infrastructure, so like setting up like fake websites. And things like
exactly.
that.
We've seen that.
We see it being used like in technical operations by different threat actors to. One of the more interesting ones recently was the lame hug stuff from
That's
Fancy
right,
Bear.
yeah.
And they were using, it was basically a malicious Python installer. So you would install Python,
Yeah.
and then it would reach out to the Hugging Face API, and it would say, profile the system with Python code. And then it would give it back Python code, and then it would execute that Python code, which really helps avoid some of the detection heuristics, right? That like, if you're going through and looking for anything in that file or something like that. But it's a prompt, so you wouldn't actually see any malicious code or activity.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the more innovative ones that we've seen recently. And then, there's
interesting.
disinformation, misinformation, it really uses that pretty heavily. And as we see more video content getting generated and picture content getting generated, that stuff is all kind of adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
Particularly on social media, you see a lot of that.
I would love to dig deeper into like the whole smishing thing later on. I think we have a good episode.
You know which one's kind of crazy too? I don't know if you've noticed this, but oftentimes if you're going through a toll booth or something like that, you'll get an SMS phishing.
Yes,
and
I've
it's
seen
basically
those.
trying to say like, hey, you
ran a toll, right?
You didn't pay the toll.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So, but it happens, pretty close to when you go through the toll booth, which is kind of makes me wonder: do they have
Like, is the
some
infrastructure
tracking,
compromised there? Yeah.
Right? Do they have some, or is your mobile device? More significantly, I think, and
Oh,
a lot of
wow,
people don't
interesting.
recognize
Yeah.
that all those apps you have on your device, a lot of those apps will have third-party advertising
Yeah, I've seen
stuff
that.
built into it. So
Yeah.
the app isn't necessarily dodgy, but then there's some, second, third tier supply chain,
Sure,
issue.
yeah.
And it's actually able to see what Wi-Fi access points you're connected to, what Bluetooth devices you're connected to.
That's right, yeah.
Where you're located, things like that.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if maybe somebody has access to some malicious advertising network, and
interesting.
they've mapped it to toll booths so that when you go past the toll booth, it kind of somehow your phone is able to like beacon to the
transponder or the receiver for that
well,
transponder.
there's like
or, yeah.
something's reading the app data, and so it sees that you're in proximity to the toll booth, and and everybody's on their phone. while
Oh,
they're
so like a
driving
geo
anyway,
stuff.
right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I
that's
mean.
interesting.
So like there must, or is there some? I don't think that somebody's setting up cell phone intercept stuff to figure out when people are going through to
See the
text
yeah,
them. But,
sure.
yeah.
Like, okay, that actually speaks to even telecom providers being targeted by adversaries, or specifically China, right? So if you're picking up geolocation from users, like, can you start to build a campaign around geo information? Can that be purchased?
You can purchase it.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can
I think I wouldn't even say nation state, right? But
crime, yeah.
like think about all those apps, and those apps are using all these third-party services to
Yeah.
monetize. And we were talking about that before. Somebody recently was discussing that they bought an app to do the bam 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 bam.
The air horn, yeah.
And
We can get that overlay.
Yeah, and well, now that the app exists, like, why don't you just hit the button? But anyway, but if that app has some sort of weird ad thing, right? And if you're not paying for it, you're the product.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
yeah.
is that ad thing beaconing information that lets them know something about proximity to where you are, what your location is, and then somebody's monitoring that, and then when they see you're going past a toll booth, they have your phone number from the app, right? Because all that data is
That's
being
right,
transmitted.
yeah, that's
and
right,
then
yeah.
they're like, oh, send a text message to this person because they just went through this geofence.
Yeah. It's everywhere now. I'm seeing it on social media. People are complaining about it.
Yeah.
These random texts about a toll booth, running a toll booth.
My sense is it's probably something to do with the app on the phone, and that they're able to kind of get some sort of geofencing around the toll booth to say, like, if somebody passes through this geofence, then send the text.
Send a text in real time. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it happens to me not just in the U.S. It's happened to me in the U.K. and I'm like, I don't have an Easy Pass or whatever they use.
No
there.
kidding,
Yeah,
really?
So,
Oh, that's fascinating.
yeah.
That's really fascinating. So AI is real in terms of the way the adversaries are using them,
Oh, yeah.
right? Their adversaries are weaponizing them. AI is ubiquitous in terms of the way that it's being used for marketing.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Right?
that is a nice way to put that. I
Thank
like
you so
that,
much.
Yeah.
But in terms of like real use cases that are powerful, I spoke about this earlier, like AI for defenders, and the goal, like, well, I typically say the goal for AI in the hands of a defender is to expedite their response process, right?
Sure.
What would you
or
yeah.
scale it?
Scale it, exactly.
Look, I think there is value to agentic AI, which is
Sure.
the buzzword here at Black Hat 2025.
I wanna talk about
Everybody's
that.
talking about it, but
That's
right.
right, yeah.
But think about the Falcon platform. So if we have the ability to have an agent that can take actions with our with Falcon Fusion to do SOAR type stuff, or you have the ability to run log scale queries, or you have the ability to do all of these different things. Think about all the API endpoints that we expose to customers, right?
Yeah.
You can do so many things with that API, and then you instrument that with an MCP server to become effectively agentic.
Yep.
And then really you just need an LLM that understands to talk to that MCP server for these different API endpoints. That's real. That's there
exactly.
today,
That's
right?
there today.
And Charlotte is that LLM that interfaces with a lot of the agentic capabilities that we have.
Yeah.
So that stuff is real. I think you'll find a lot of the things here talk about AI SOC and agentic SOC. So think of Falcon and Charlotte as being part of that equation, but then every other tool that's being used, because defenders spend so much time shifting data, shifting information between different tools, right?
Yeah.
They're basically managing tools all day. And so if you can create effectively a streamlined interface where they don't have to do that the AI can, or the LLM can take the data from one agent and then feed it into the other agent, it really it simplifies their life.
Exactly.
It's great.
Yeah.
My concern around that, though, is at what point does that become weaponized? Because
Interesting.
I'm not seeing a lot of people that have been talking about the security and how do you actually protect that AI. So
Sure.
we did this Hot Ones thing earlier.
Like
with
the chicken wing challenge.
Yeah, so me and our CMO have this thing where we do this Hot Ones thing, and today was particularly, it was a good conversation, but the sauces were not particularly spicy. We did this at RSA, and she was literally puking in a garbage can because it was so spicy.
See, that's what people sign up for. The puking.
I know. That's what I signed up for. In fact, I had a side bet with Elia, our CTO, that she would be puking by the fourth one. And
really?
I got there and there were only 4, so I was like, oh boy.
Oh, man.
And then
odds are against you.
It was against me. But his were over 4, so I think we'll just call that bet.
Yeah, they just just shaking.
But hey, we're in Vegas. You gotta do a little betting, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, we were talking about the fact that there's all this agentic stuff out there.
Yeah.
But she said, what's your prediction for, because we were talking the threat hunting report, what's your prediction going to be for the next year? Next year, like what will that?
What's it going to look like? Yeah, what's it going to look like?
And I said, look, I think we will see in the next year that there will be an adversary using agentic AI as an insider threat, because
yes,
when you
100%.
look at the authentication that goes into a lot of these AIs, once you get past the SSO or you sign in or you have a legitimate credential, there's nothing inside that AI that's like, wait a minute, you're not acting like you usually act. Like, there's no, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that, right?
Yeah.
It just does what you ask it to.
Exactly.
So if an adversary can gain access, think of like a scattered spider, it gets access to agentic AI, and they're able to start doing things with those agents.
Interesting.
They could actually weaponize that internal agent against the organization, and you now have, a supercharged insider threat or
like a
artificial insider threat or something. I don't know. We'll have to come up with
we have to come up with a cool. It's interesting because I was talking to someone about this. They were asking about the implications of using AI. They're in the hospitality industry, and they said, we have a very firm stance to not adopt AI internally because we just don't really. We're measuring the risks. We don't really like the risks right now. And we don't really have a data governance program or an AI governance program. And no one is around to kind of streamline or even categorize what is IP versus what is non-classified data, right? And I think the challenge there for them is they're thinking if we just adopt an AI model, we can just give it access to all this raw data and maybe it will do some stuff for us. I'm like, well, like you don't just hire someone and give them unfederated access to every single thing that you're doing in finance versus HR versus like whatever the roles are. Like you should, we walked into the entire concept and architecture of agentic and, creating these guardrails, and they were like, we just don't have the resources to support that, right? Or nor do we have the appetite. And I go, well, how do you control then even the use of employees leveraging models like ChatGPT? And that really more gets into like a shadow AI issue and data loss prevention.
We almost need like an AI that's like a security AI that you have to like a guardrail almost you wrap it with.
Exactly.
So that when you're asking the question, the guardrail can be like, wait a minute, like something shady is
something
going on
exactly.
Here.
So setting up almost like a baseline, and then that AI model identifies outliers. Right?
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think
productize that.
Yeah, that's we should. Let's not produce.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
cut that.
Cut that from the record. We're gonna.
No, but okay. I hope somebody builds it because it's going to be necessary. And what is clearly coming is that somebody's going to do that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that is the main concern there is that there's we're building all these things. Everybody's rushing to do AI rather, and everybody's got that hammer that's AI, and they're going to use it everywhere they can.
Yeah.
Which I'm a huge proponent of AI.
Sure.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But I also think that we need to be very careful about when and where we implement that, because that is, Pandora's box when you start to set that up inside of your environment, and you don't necessarily know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, agreed. I've also had a lot of C-levels, CIOs and CISOs say, we would love AI to take away, again, like tier 1 SOC analysts. And I'm like, that's really not a reality that we're in right now, right? But, there's things that can shorten and reduce their workload that AI can accommodate for. but I don't think we're removing anyone from the workforce anytime soon.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we can augment them. You can supercharge with these AI tools,
Yeah.
but you're not going to replace a SOC analyst. You're not going to replace a hunter,
Exactly.
right? You're
Yeah.
not going to replace an Intel analyst or a reverse engineer.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are powerful tools, but I think people are maybe over their skis in what these things can do.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sci-fi films that are being referenced in a lot of conversations that I'm having, and they're like, "Hey, do you think this is going to happen?" Or I'll have kind of this fully autonomous SOC that is just like running based upon these multiple agents. I'm like,
But like think
you
about like a SOC analyst. Like there's like one tool. Like let's say it's a network tool has an alert.
Yep.
And then there's an EDR tool and there's an identity tool and like so
It's a cloud tool. Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you're a SOC analyst without like a common, we used to talk about, and I guess AI has kind of now become the one screen, right? The single pane of glass that was
Sure.
always like the
Which
mythical.
I hate saying, by the way.
Oh yeah, but
yeah,
now it's just AI, so you
It's
can
just
say
AI.
that.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
it was a single pane of glass where
Yeah.
you could see all of your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And that never worked out, right? But the I think the intent was that you have all of these different tools, so you have to like one as a defender, you're kind of like an air traffic controller looking at 10 different airspaces, and
Yeah.
you've got to kind of correlate what's going on. And so we've kind of kept putting tools. With Gen AI, it actually does give you some of the opportunity to remove some of those tools from the analyst's kind of standard workflow.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
the agents become the analyst that handles that tool.
That
So, like,
interfaces with the tool.
yeah, so if you think about
yeah.
like the analyst like has to be an expert on all the tools. So if you have a network tool and an endpoint tool and an identity tool and cloud data and
Yeah.
unmanaged devices and firewalls, right? They have to like go to all of those tools.
Yeah, to
Or
manage them. Yeah,
it goes into
that's
next
UI
gen
whiplash,
SIEM.
right? Hopping
Right.
from one thing to the next. Exactly.
Right, or it
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
to next
yeah.
gen SIEM, and next gen SIEM gives you kind of like almost like a metadata version of what's there,
Mm-hmm.
but you still probably are going to need to go to other tools based off
Mm.
of what's in that SIEM to kind of get more context, more understanding.
Sure.
But if each of those tools has an AI agent running it, and there's an LLM connecting them, you as the analyst can probably very much optimize your workflow.
Mm.
You can very much reduce the amount of effort you spend
Sure.
managing the tools to focus on what matters.
Yep, yep, yep.
So I think that is the right direction, and I think that that's really powerful.
Yep, yep.
But to think that it's going to do it without the human in the loop, I think that is
A little unrealistic for now, yeah.
unrealistic. And I think if anybody says that's what our product does, then
Yeah, I think
they
that's
probably
like
transitioned from snake oil to AI.
snake AI.
Snake eye?
Snake
Yeah.
eye. Oh, snake eye. I like that. Okay, so we talked about AI being used by adversaries, what's real versus what's not in terms of the tools that are out there. And then the fear, right, of AI being weaponized at some point in the very near future by an adversary that can, use it as a pivot point to, have some type of major impact. Because your AI models are part of your infrastructure, right?
Yeah, so,
Right,
I think it can be an insider threat, right? Right now, adversaries are focused on using AI to optimize what they're doing.
Exactly.
And so, you take a look, some of the more recent examples we have, I mentioned that Fancy Bear one. And, we've seen things like we've talked about Spark Cap before. We've talked about different tools that have been used. And advanced adversaries can use it to their advantage.
Yep.
And they're going to use it to do probably more interesting, more powerful, bad stuff.
Sure.
Less advanced adversaries, it's actually burning up a lot of their cycles, and they're ending up having to do things multiple times, or like
interesting.
FunkLocker we talked about, right?
Yeah,
The encryption didn't work, and
I
the guy
remember
left
that,
his
yeah.
name in it, right? So I think less advanced adversaries are going to end up wasting a lot of time and
Kind of going
like,
through these cycles. trying to get-
downgrading some of their capabilities
Interesting,
because
yeah.
they've kind of directionally, they're relying on the AI because they're not technically like experts.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so the AI ends up kind of burning them because they still don't have the tools and the capabilities to connect all the dots that comes out of the AI.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's today.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is where this stuff, the confluence of this is when organizations, right now, most organizations, when you talk to them about the use of generative AI, I don't know if you've seen these commercials on like YouTube, but it's like, if you're over 40, you're using AI wrong. You're using it like Google,
man.
right?
Yeah, I've heard those.
You see those commercials.
I feel so
and-
targeted and like offended.
Yeah. Are you using it wrong?
No, I'm just over 40.
Oh, all right.
I know I'm using it right.
Well, you look good for your age. So you're a
Thank
beautiful
you.
man.
I appreciate
But the the confluence of that is like the adversaries are using it,
Yeah.
people are using it. The point that the adversaries start to target it, and we're starting to already
yeah.
kind of see some
See
of that, right? Because if you're using any cloud service like GCP or Azure or
Yeah.
AWS, you're getting access to frontier models,
Yeah.
and more organizations are starting to build their own AI solutions, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of customers where they're fine tuning some of these models that have come out, and they're applying them for different things internally. And one of the things that I've kind of talked to them about is that these AI are tools that they're going to be able to leverage, but they're not very complex today,
Sure,
right? Like
yeah.
they think it's complex because it's AI, but it's a container with Python
Sure,
generally, right?
sure.
And so one of the things that we can do is like we can protect those AI workloads from attacks that we know today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the attacks today are kind of tricking the AI into doing something or
Sure.
finding some way to trigger a library that isn't supposed to be accessible and get it to compile some code and write
Yeah,
a
yeah.
web shell or something into the container.
Yeah.
That's all capable today or realistic today. And so protecting those AI workloads as organizations are building them out becomes the first phase of the solution.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Very
But
similar
what
to how
we-
they would protect workloads that they're spinning up that are ephemeral, or if they're spinning up containers that are non-AI. It's still, you need to protect the container. You
Right.
need to assess the configuration settings around the container, review IAM policies, and that still applies to an AI model. Which
But
is
here's the
leveraging
thing,
that,
right? You're basically assuming an adversary is going to get access to it at that point. Because if an adversary has access to it and is able to abuse one of these models, then you're assuming that they have access, right? So
exactly.
where's the like that comes back to that whole like building some sort of AI guardrail system
Yes,
around
exactly.
the AI to like actually hunt for anomalous use of adversary act
that's fascinating.
or even malicious insiders,
Yeah.
right? Like a malicious insider using AI becomes even more capable.
So AI watching the user, AI watching the services being AI based.
Who guards the guardians,
like a Russian
right?
doll system of AI models, basically.
If you wrap that with like some sort of an AI security agent,
Sure, yeah,
right,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that
Changes the game a bit,
you
right?
need that. So you need something like that from a security perspective, like a cyber AI agent that can like wrap
Like a
around
governance
it.
system,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea a lot. You know, it's funny. I was testing out some model the other day, and I sent it 3 different articles, and I said, hey, find similarities in these 3 articles on this specific theme. And the model came back and said, hey, I can't analyze that 3rd one because that article was published in the future. And I was like, and I looked at the date of the article, and I was like, no, this article was published today. And I basically asked it, like, what day do you think it is? And the model thought it was like 5 days before, like in the past. And I was like, what? Okay, so this is the Adversary Universe podcast, and so we talked about the way that adversaries can potentially weaponize AI as an insider risk. Is there an adversary that you think we should keep an eye on that has been a little more prominent on the AI side beside famous CHOLLIMA?
Well, Scattered Spider would probably be my number one concern here. They've really kind of been the most progressive in terms of like using cloud technology and things like that. There was a big arrest, and one of their members in early July got picked up. That was one of the core people that we've been kind of monitoring.
That's right.
So maybe that'll dissuade them. But I think one of the other things that we've been talking about, and I think this is a whole other podcast, is there's a whole ecosystem of these teenage hackers that are graduating from Roblox and Minecraft into e-crime.
This is going to be a fun episode.
And
Yeah,
I
can't
think
wait for that one.
They're the ones that you have to worry about, right?
Oh,
They're
yes.
the ones that are.
They're coming in droves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. That's a good one. I wanted your comment on this, by the way, also, just my ADD kicking in here as we're talking about threats. And you mentioned an arrest, and it made me think of the famous CHOLLIMA story. There was a woman recently
Christina
arrested.
Chapman.
That's right.
Well, she was arrested. She was recently sentenced.
She was sentenced, exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
She had
So,
90 laptops in
Yeah.
her laptop farm, and she had
Yeah.
a TikTok account.
Yeah.
Where she was talking about like smoothies and everything she was eating, and there's just like a stack of laptops behind her.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, is that setting this new precedence for folks involved in these laptop farms? Do you think that's also being overly publicized to show whoever's doing this, like, hey, we're going to catch you and put you away? I mean, what do you think the DOJ is thinking here?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, you can actually make a difference there, right? Like
Yes.
these facilitators. So, like famous CHOLLIMA, I talked about this a little bit out here at Black Hat, but in 2020, they were, or North Korea, I should say. I wouldn't necessarily say famous CHOLLIMA, but
Sure.
they were basically doing gig economy work. If you wanted to build an app, you could go onto like one of these gig economy sites and like, here's my app idea. I want you to build it for me, and they would do it for a fixed price.
Sure.
A lot of that was North Koreans that were doing.
Oh, how interesting.
There's a lot of North Koreans, I should say, doing that type of work. But I think like they kind of were like, wait a minute, why are we doing actual work when we could just get full-time jobs and then just do enough to not get fired?
Really?
And so around 2022, was when the earliest indications we have that they were doing this, but maybe it was before. But then they started getting full-time jobs, and they were still using those gig economy sites, but now in reverse. So rather than using it to get work, they were fielding out work to people that wanted to make a quick buck, and like, hey, you want to make a bunch of money working from home and not do a lot?
Sure.
I'm going to ship you a bunch of laptops.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pay you for each laptop as long as you keep it powered on, keep it connected to the internet. And if I need you to touch it, you have to go do whatever I say, right?
Yeah.
And so those laptop farm operators are facilitators, and there was just a whole series of indictments actually against. I think we've talked about this before. But yeah, you can. It is a little bit whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
But you're actually getting people, you're arresting them, they're getting sentenced, it's in the media, and now people that are doing gig economy work are like, I don't want to end up doing that.
Exactly.
But we just found the other day, the Overwatch team let me know that we've got a whole set of Nigerians that are doing similar stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah. So this is, I guess one of the perils of remote work is that you never know exactly who you're hiring.
Who you're hiring, exactly.
Yeah, so it's overemployment fraud, but the North Koreans have been doing it at scale, right? Like in the threat hunting report, I think we said 320.
That's right.
In July, we found 33 instances of famous CHOLLIMA.
Wow.
28 were remote IT jobs. They were in predominantly the U.S., like 78% in the U.S.,
Oh, wow.
somewhere in Canada, somewhere in France, somewhere in Japan. The other 5 incidents were malware, and we're only tracking significant developments in the malware now. We're not tracking every time we see their malware.
Sure, yeah.
So I mean, they're operating at speed, and they're branching out to other countries, and this is just in July.
Wow.
And as more and more adversaries kind of start to, or more and more criminals even pick up that methodology, that problem becomes even more difficult.
What do we want to tell our listeners and viewers as a kind of a wrap up to this? Because this is, again, I think to your point, the next generation of attackers, right, is from the Roblox to ransomware, I think is fascinating, right? So I think we have a guest speaker for that one.
Yeah. Actually, it's one of our interns who did a really cool deep dive on it and actually found the whole next generation of these kind of teenage hackers that are coming.
Oh, wow.
And
they grow up so fast.
And he pulled like all of the their Instagram and stuff, and like
did he
like,
really
flashing like all kinds of stuff.
Oh, let's do
it's
this.
Like,
can't wait to get into this one.
It's like the convergence of like nerds and gangs and e-crime. It's a crazy story.
Really?
Yeah,
I love
wild.
this.
Yeah.
Any closing comments for the listeners?
Hey, what happens in Vegas, I guess, stays in Vegas unless it's on a podcast.
Oh, God, that's so bad. We're going to have to catch up on some of the more AI stuff. A lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, well, this is the Adversary Universe podcast. Adam Myers, head of our counter adversary operations team. I'm Cristian Rodriguez, Field CTO of the Americas. And we're going to catch you in the next episode.
Yeah,
so,
and
thanks
now
so
we're going to do battle
We're going to go.
adversaries.
Yeah, famous CHOLLIMA versus Bounty Jackal. Go. Superpowers deploy. Oh, they do come off.
They do. Oh, yeah.
All right, well, hopefully this is not someone's, so. All right, thanks. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to our podcast and head over to CrowdStrike.com/adversaries to learn more about the many bad guys we track. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Adversary Universe podcast.